And it looks like we are finally live yet again today. If you didn't see our experience, our troubles we were having on Instagram, we won't be throwing that video up here. We're just going to be starting all over from the top and showing everything that we've done in the last week and kind of discuss some comics and stuff that we've been a part of this last week. So, I'm Ox. You probably know this since you're on my channel. Um, we're gonna start doing this every week again. Me and Yann talk about what comic stuff we're working on, what art stuff we're working on. We're also discussing a certain couple comics every week. Um, Along with this, since we are part of the Hundreds Anthology Volume 2, mainly most of the stuff we are working on right now coincides with that, so you'll be getting some sneak peeks while we work on all that stuff as well. But getting back into everything, last week I thought I would be able to accomplish at least 2 pages. I only was able. I'm getting way ahead of ourselves. Way ahead of ourselves. Let's start with our intro. I'm Ox. Obviously, I work on my own comic series. I never forgot. Been working on it for 4 years now. Just finished up the 10th issue in January, so I've got 3 issues to go. Alongside that, I was part of the Hundreds Anthology Volume 1 a couple years back, and now part of Volume 2 as well. We went from 6 pages to 4 pages for this one, and that's pretty good enough intro. If you want to get in touch with me, probably the easiest way to do that is over on Twitter under the same username that I use here. And now I'll kick it over to Yann.
So my name is Yann. I go under the moniker of Yannimal here on YouTube and on Twitter and on Instagram. And yeah, I've been working on my little comic book called Phosphor for the last couple of years as part of the V100's comic book community that was set up by Kevin Cross, in which we work half an hour each day on our comic book, at the very least for 100 days straight. And that landed us in a collective book, the anthology #1, and this year we're making a second issue with 30 artists, I believe. They've actually upped the ante, and there's now 30 of us going to be in the next book. So yeah, where we left off last week, you had 0 pages penciled and inked, and now...
Right now, so I've got the first page done. It's inked. I still gotta hit it with some grayscale Copic markers, but yeah, that's page 1. And we started out. I had this penciled earlier this morning. Got about half of it inked. I don't know if you can really tell, but there's some really stark differences between the main characters here and then the subsidiary ones. You can see Monkey Mod rocking in the background, as well as a Horror 4 coming down here in this corner. So pretty excited about how these pages are coming along. I don't think I'll have any problem getting all 4 knocked out by next week. So hopefully I'll be through the colors, but for the most part I'll definitely be done with inking. But yeah. How about you? How far are you on your 4 pages?
Well, so last week I showed you guys my page #1, which is this little thing right over here. And so this week I had to redo quite a lot of page #2. This is the original one right here. That kickstarted the whole story for me. But now all of this you see here, in which, as my cryptid, since the second anthology is about werewolves versus unicorns, but we get to choose whatever we want, I went for the fossil of an angel for inspiration. This is kind of receding to background because this page over here ended on a little note that gave me the idea that the second page should definitely continue with the narrator's story rather than just going off on a bit of a tangent and then bringing it back. So the second page I've been working on today. Let me just see if I can flip the camera one more time. Oh, and come back over here. So this is the second page. So the narrator I've turned into a notebook that is being found over here. And then the captions that, because she keeps on talking, are now part of the notebook, which is one of those fun things that you can do in comics. So I really wanted to make sure that that's in there. This is the first time I'm actually lettering, so I hope everything will be legible. And in between our downtime, I've actually managed to finish another panel right here.
Nice. Yeah, that looks
Yes.
good. I love the idea of the narration being part of the notes that they're found.
Yeah, I think. I mean, this is just one of those things. Like if you do the lettering yourself, like you can get creative with just about everything. So yeah. So this page is almost done. It's my second page. I'm not quite as fast as Ox, but I do hope that with the 3 weeks we've got left,
Yeah.
I'm thinking like at this rate, like another 2 weeks and the black and whites are done. And then I would like to add some grayscale. But I'm thinking these are my originals. I think I will probably do the grayscales in pencil because I'm keeping everything traditional this time. But I'm thinking I'll photocopy these and then do grayscales on the photocopies and then scan those in again if the quality of the copies are, decent enough. But I think we can do that. So yeah.
So with the first anthology, us traditional artists put up our pages for part of the Kickstarter campaign. Are you going to be throwing your pages in the mix as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, mine are going in there as well.
That's part of the fun, like of the behind the scenes stuff with the Kickstarters, like all the stretch goals. If we should get so far, I'm definitely putting my pages up, so I'll have to ship them over to Mike probably beforehand if we want to do everything in a timely fashion. But yeah, why not? That's cool.
Actually, so one of my pages sold for the first Kickstarter, and I actually mailed mine directly to the person who got it. So that was a lot of fun. It might be a little easier because the guy that had bought my page was from the UK, and the international shipping is a little bit much, but I suppose it's not quite as much for you. So hopefully you get one of those.
If it's someone from the UK and I get to send it from over here, yes. Then I'm in the clear.
Nice.
Otherwise, I think
you've been working on it.
$12, I think.
Yeah, I think it was maybe like 25 to ship it off, but that's only because I put some heavy duty cardboard so it wouldn't get beat up. So did my best. How about the other art you've been working on? You get anything else done this week, or you were just mainly working on this?
I actually had a lot of paperwork to do, both for the office job I have and living in Spain. So no, I've actually just worked on this right here. But the good news is, I am now the proud owner. I'm very proud of this because it's taken me so long to get one of these. It's my little citizen card.
Well, look at you.
Yeah.
So now you're a citizen of Barcelona?
No, I wouldn't go that far. But like as a foreigner in Spain, you get it's called a NIE. So it's basically like a little ID card for foreigners, so they can keep track of us troublemakers, I guess. And and if you only live in the country for like a couple of months because you just got like a summer job maybe, you don't need one. But if you're going to be here long term and you want to hook up with all the social services that they've got here, like free healthcare, fun stuff, you need one of those. So.
Nice.
And so since I've
help.
actually never been sick in the last 3 years that I've lived here. So it just kind of escaped my mind. And now finally, it's mine.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, great. Congratulations on that. Looks like Abe's joining us in the chat. So what's going on, Abe? Yeah, I didn't get too much art done this week. Kind of been cracking on with the podcast stuff with Luke, so been trying to get all that done.
So, what movies did you guys discuss this week?
Oh, let's see. Um, Let me get the link shared, and then let me double check, see what we actually did watch. So we saw Fighting with My Family, and that's probably my front runner of my favorite movies right now for uh, 2019.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of heart. You'd actually probably like it because it shows the wrestling ring kind of backyard style wrestling in the UK and how they've kind of gone from there to actually wrestling in the WWE. This is one
What?
person's story. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's
What's it called
trying to think
again?
of her
Fighting
name.
with the Family.
Fighting with My Family. It's got Nick
Okay.
Frost and Lena Headey are the parents of these two kids. Uh,
Okay.
I don't I don't think they're twins, but they're pretty close in range. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Kind of showing this behind the scenes look at what it takes to become a wrestler, and whatnot. Um, and other than that, we saw Greta, which that was kind of, I don't know, it was an odd, interesting choice. I think it was more or less getting me ready for Jordan Peele's new movie Us, which I am
Yeah.
definitely not ready for because I'm guessing that's going to be pretty insane for sure. And then we're just watching Battlestar Galactica, getting into the second season already. And then we
What?
even watched the old movies, Rollerball and Interstellar. So
Oh, yeah.
it was an interesting
Interstellar
week
was
for
fun.
sure.
Hmm. So, how do you like in Battlestar Galactica still?
Dude, I am loving it. That show's so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, just the dynamics of the different characters and like considering the show is like 15 years old at this point, like
Oh God.
the I know it's a reboot from I think it was the 75 series, but like
Yeah.
the writing and technical aspects of the characters and like the dichotomy of them all playing off each other like
Yeah.
is just madness to think about how they've all integrated all the amongst each other. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I actually tried to sell someone on this show at work who remembered the original, and he
Mm.
stayed away from this one, figuring like, oh, this is another one of those new reboots, like that is just going to be horrible. And I was like, actually, no, wait a minute, because there's a really funny backstory to the Battlestar Galactica reboot, which is that the actor who played Apollo actually wrote the reboot and put it out there as a comic book first.
Oh
And so
really?
that's how the reboot story, in which they set it in the future a little bit, and like they come up with this whole backstory for the Battlestar and the Klingons, the Ceylons and everything. They worked that out in the comic books first, and that's how they managed to get the interest going that eventually led to the miniseries.
See, now I've got to look up even more backstory on
Yeah,
this whole thing.
yeah, it's really cool. So
It's pretty
I sold it.
awesome because
Sorry.
Luke's bringing so much to the behind the scenes stuff as well.
Mhm.
And apparently, the guy that is the terrorist in the prisoner ship, actually was the one who played Starbuck in the original series, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's little things like that along the way, and like, yeah, I'm loving the series so much.
yeah, and it's also
Did you
crazy
ever
to
see
think
the
that.
original then?
Yeah, I remember the original as a kid. You know, um, I mean, like when I was really, really young, there was I think there was like one character, like there was a little boy who had like a robot teddy bear dog or something. Like I really remember that standing out. Um, so yeah, I do remember the original one, but yeah, this reboot, man, like it's just like that whole, like what's his name again? Gaius, and like the lady in
Yeah.
his head, or Ishi, and like the whole religious aspect they bring into it, where the humans are the ones who believe in many gods, but the robots in just one. It's just it's so. sci-fi. You know, it's great. I love it. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. I think Gaius is probably my favorite character just because the intricacies he has to play, and like
Yeah,
everything he says has double meanings because he's not only speaking to the lady in his mind, but also everybody around him, and like he's running this really thin line that is
yeah,
really interesting to watch
yeah,
transpire. So yeah, I'm loving it.
yeah. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. So we were talking a little bit about Captain Marvel. You saw it last
Yes.
night. I saw it a couple nights ago. What are your feelings on the entire movie? We're gonna stay away from spoilers,
Yes,
so
of
because I'm
course. It
sure
just came out.
a handful
Just
of
came out.
people haven't seen it yet. But would you recommend it to everyone?
I would recommend this film. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's like great, but I think if you keep your expectations in check and don't expect the sequel to Infinity War, but think of it more as like a more down to earth, you know, in spite of some of the fantastic scenes in this film, more of a down to earth um, origin story, you know, like on par with like for me, like Spider-Man Homecoming, for example, where it's really like, you know, like there's a group of people just discovering themselves. Um, that's kind of where like I would put this film, you know, like it's really really solid, and like the stuff they do with the scrolls that are introduced in this film, and just the whole, you know, Captain Marvel, Nick Fury, that made the film for me. Like I really enjoyed it, and I totally want to see it again. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll probably see it again tonight or tomorrow. Definitely this weekend again. But yeah, I really loved it. I think it's probably an MCU movie right now. I've been
Really?
thinking about it a lot the last 2 days, and just the storytelling they did, and like the little interwoven pieces from here and there. Like I went into it completely blind, didn't know much about Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Even the comic we read for this week, I waited till I saw the movie before actually reading that, and yeah, I'm really intrigued by this character. I think I want to
Yeah.
know more about her. She runs that line where she has like three different kind of different origin stories. So I think the one they picked worked out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as they did with Homecoming, they didn't worry too much about how she became it. They just kind of showed her doing her thing, and I think that works so well. Compared to Iron Man, which set up this whole universe, is like you see him building his actual suit in the caves, and like he's this really interesting person. To see how far they've come, and they've actually gone about showing a lot more than telling. Um, just only emphasizes how incredible this whole universe is that they've built.
Yeah.
Um, and really, this acts as a great bridge as like the earthbound heroes in the cosmic side of the
Yeah.
MCU. So yeah, I really love this movie. So everybody
Yeah,
should go out
no,
and check it out.
and again, it's not set up like a regular origin. There's so much mystery in this film, and like how they, you know, eke out the mystery, and like where you slowly learn as she learns, you know, about her origins. I thought that was really well done, very enjoyable, you know, and above
Oh
all,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
it's just a fun movie. Like that is the most important thing. It is just
Oh
a
yeah,
really really fun movie, you know. So yeah, I want to see it again.
absolutely, absolutely. So jumping from there, you asked if I wanted to, or if I had any comic suggestions, and I did throw a couple out your way.
Yes.
First and foremost, we started with um, this Infinity War, and let me pull it up here real quick, because I have it downloaded on my tablet since I read it through Comixology.
So did
But
I.
so we started with this Infinity Countdown Captain Marvel issue that came out last year. The artist is Diego Orlategi. I know I'm murdering that name, so I apologize. But he's also the illustrator for this comic Datura that I wanted Yann to check out because I really dig his art style, and I think from where we stand right now for our
Mhm.
comic making journey,
Yeah.
it shows us where we the next level that we are looking to obtain to like be on par with a lot of the artists out there.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's some really great moments. This comic was a little weird because I guess I'm more used to the MCU mythology right now, so like this kind of throws the idea that the Infinity Stones are held by like heroes on Earth and whatnot, and well, actually is holding on to the Reality Stone, and this lets her communicate with like a ton of different realities that she's part of. Also, I think the comics do a great way of like setting up the stones and explaining them and their powers a little bit better. I don't think we necessarily get that out of the movies, like because there's too much to explain.
Yeah.
But like, it's great seeing her like question her choices that she's made and using this reality stone to like talk to all these other different people and like different universes that she's part of and like how they handle different situations. So, but yeah, I really like the art that he does. I think he does a great job of drawing these superheroes really well, and like all the detail he puts in there. It's not necessarily James Stocco level that we were talking about last week, but like it's pretty up there, and you can see all the little details that he does put in. Like he does a great blacks and like
Mhm.
having you focus on certain things amongst the pages. Like here he is showing the different Captain Marvels that have been through the years, and like the different ways and like the way Rogue got her powers and whatnot. Like does does this great little wrap up issue of like describing who Captain Marvel is and like when she finally decides that she is her own person, like and like supercharges and does all this cool stuff. So definitely worth checking out. Um, this dude's art is on another level, and I really want to get there. So
Yeah. So I was also a bit confused by this comic because it seemed to me like they were mixing up the powers of the stones. You know, like for me, the reality
mm-hmm.
stone was the red one where you could just create illusions, and she was literally shifting from one dimension to the next. So that really that kind of threw me off a little bit. But then when I once I went with it and was like, oh wait, so she can literally just go from one alternate reality to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and then the story
Yeah,
that created, like in a single issue, where like this, she had this hero's journey, questioning herself and her own choices in a single issue, and I thought, like I just love that this was this one compact story that you could read from beginning to end, and then in
mm-hmm.
the end she's like, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and you kind of just have that, like, that hooray moment at the end, like a
Oh
like
yeah,
real
for
superhero thing.
sure.
That I thought it was really well done. I loved seeing the colors in this comic book on the art, because the other comic book we'll
Mm-hmm.
be talking about, I just got to see the pencils. And it's funny you should bring up, like, like the journey we're on as comic book artists, because I do feel um, like you like when you make comics, you kind of develop a newfound appreciation for comic book art, you know, from the point of view
Yeah,
of
yeah.
how hard it is to put a comic book together, and just finishing a comic book, so on the one hand, like as a fan, when I saw the art, like there were certain things I did not like about it, but when it comes to the storytelling, as you pointed out, the storytelling is really, really solid. And when you look at
Mm-hmm.
the art, how he puts it together, and like I was looking at things like his figure drawing and like the expressions, um, like you really get a feel for all the characters and like what they're feeling and what they're doing, and like you can perfectly well understand all this really complex all these complex scenes that are happening on the page, you know. So it's one of those things where, like, you know, as a fan, you know, I have certain preferences in what I like to see, but this is like, this guy is really solid, like when it comes to what he puts on the page. Like, I can only wish that one time, like, my storytelling will be this, like, uncluttered, just like, you know, to the point.
Yeah.
Just really good. So
I
yeah,
feel
I
like
really enjoyed it.
we're on, like, you're probably a year ahead of me where I am at that point, but I can see definitely where you're getting to the same elements in your storytelling. I feel like we're both probably going to get a lot more cluttered before we like
Yeah.
realize how to refine these lines a lot better and like really emphasize the points we want to hit home. But even when I was working on issue 10 earlier this year, and you were pointing out that like just a thicker line on a few of the things like helps something stand out and grab your attention a little bit more. And like the coloring side of issue 10 has gone by leaps and bounds from even 8 and 9. Like, um, it's really cool to see this gradual progression of my
Yes.
skills along the way. And it's going to be really awesome when we hit this point where we're on par with this guy and like to look back to see where we go. And even the other day, like I on Twitter, um, a few artists were talking about people that write and draw their own comics and how much they appreciate people that do that because it's not an easy walk to make.
Oh,
And I was talking to a couple different people, and it's like all it takes is a notebook and some time. Like, just start putting some ideas down, and usually
yeah.
they'll grow. And like, I've been working on my comic for 4 years now, and you've
Yeah.
been working on your one issue for a
Awesome.
few, and like the art that's going into your pages is incredible and insane, and I love
Oh,
seeing
thanks.
all the little details you have in yours as well.
But it's
So it's cool.
yeah. Yeah, it is a really fun thing. Like, you know, like as a fan of comic books and like writing your own stories, and how accessible the medium is to everyone, because anyone gets to play in this playground, right? I mean, at the end of the
Yeah,
day, a
for sure.
blank page is just a blank page. Like, you fill it with your own imagination. Um, but as fans, you know, we of course have the people we look up to, and we do compare ourselves to what we put in front of ourselves. And like, I think both of us would very much like to work in this field, like, but in very particular genres that we love.
Yeah,
Like, we want to
yeah,
be able to do these kinds of stories. Um, so yeah, it's awesome to see a book. And now, because, you know, when I was younger, if I didn't like something, you know, I would not I would not keep that for me. Like, I would just blurt that out, you know. And now I find myself a lot more reserved, where it's like, no, like, someone actually put, you know, 30 pages together. And like, I'm finding, as I was saying last week, now that I'm on Marvel Unlimited and I'm just going through every day, like on my way to work or just at the office, like, I'm just reading comics all of it. But I'm reading a lot of old comics. And I just find that even though some of these older comics are not the flashiest ones around, but there's just, compared to, I think it depends what kind of comics you're really into. But like, in superhero comics, compared to 80s superhero comics, they just cram so much more in every scene on every
oh,
page than they do nowadays. Nowadays, it's a lot more. There's just less panels on the page, and that's cool. You
yeah.
know, it's just different. Um, but then seeing some of that older art, and it's just so, like, this Captain Marvel artist. It's just like the storytelling is just so solid, and like all the buildings and like what happens in the scene, and you can just follow along. And like, that is what should be most important. And everything else is just, you know, like, all the style is just that. It's just making it look pretty, like, you know, eye catching. It's candy, really, you know. So
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. Speaking of that, since you've been reading a little bit Marvel, like I'm trying to read more and get through the stack of trades and everything that I have. I actually picked up a Tank Girl trade, and I was surprised that she was from Australia, primarily based, because I always figured she was an American because it's just
Oh,
kind of this American mindset. So it was really cool to dig into her character a little bit more, and like I read the Gifting, which has this really loose sketch style to it. Like Jim Mafood and like Corey Lewis come to mind. Uh, and I wish I had it right here that I could tell you who the artist was, but like, yeah, I'm digging the style of these different artists that take on these projects that we know about, but
yeah.
don't necessarily keep the same artist for multiple different projects. Like everybody comes in and puts their spin on it and then takes off. Because I think it's the same writer for the most of the
Oh,
stories that I've
Tank Girl.
seen. He just goes and grabs different artists for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really digging those stories. So for
Do
sure.
you do you by the way have a pile of shame where you just have a stack of comics that you mean to get to?
Oh, dude, that I won't let myself get caught up in a big sale of comics until I get at least half the trades that I have
Okay.
sitting in a stack that I have to get through right up here. And it's like once I get through a couple of those piles, then I can start buying a few more. But like I have so much more digital that
Yeah.
like I picked up on like Black Friday sales and everything like that. Like
Yeah.
I'm like put the brakes on. I got to get through some series. So yeah, it's really cool forcing myself to do that too because I'm seeing so many different artists and their takes on different art styles and whatnot. Also, I read the Hack Slash Omnibus, which is
I think I've heard of
a
that one.
character that
Yeah.
kind of goes so like horror movie slashers.
Yeah.
She hunts them down because they believe in this paranormal aspect to it, but it's like different writers, like different creative teams, can take this concept, the story, and it's really cool to see all these different stories tied together with a common thread. Um, and you can see the progression, like the different artists and like the different skill levels they are, because like there's a few stories that have really itemless backgrounds and whatnot, but
Yeah.
you jump from that story to like a very painterly style and like someone who's almost like Jeff Lafferty that paints every panel, and like it's just a really cool idea to have this character that's been created with so many different artists touch on it, and like it's very much like Tank Girl, and I'm really digging those two different worlds and seeing how these characters can be transformed by their artists
Yeah.
being written by different people. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
It's. I think someone explained it. So I came across someone on Twitter or somewhere, and someone explained it like when you put a different artist on a book, it's as if they change the cast for a movie. Like all of a sudden, everyone is a different
Yeah,
actor, you know, which can be
yeah.
both cool and it can be, if you're in the middle of a story, it can be a bit like, whoa, what's happening, you know? But yeah, but that's also
Oh,
the fun
totally jarring. And what's so
yeah,
fun is I think a few weeks ago I started. I think it's called Welcome Back, but it's
yeah,
about these people that take up different lives at various points in the past,
hmm,
and like they are just out to hunt this person that opposes them in every timeline that they're in, and it's
uh-huh,
really cool. But like the artist that started on issue one dipped out of the second issue, and like it's a very jarring that shift in the art. Um, but I think the story was so compelling that I just went ahead and bought the original 8 issue run, and was really pleased with the new artist as like they came into their own throughout these 7 issues they worked on. So yeah, it was
hmm,
really cool to see stuff like that. So
yeah,
jumping
how,
from this Captain Marvel comic, I'm gonna throw it to me, and I'm gonna be showing off this. Datura that he also worked on. I met this Trevor Talbot who wrote it with this artist. They co-wrote it. He's an Iowa native. Met him at a con here, and like he was getting this book off the ground. And I just love the. I want to make a book just like this unwrapped style, showing off the pencils. Here, I'll show you some. But like, I've been privy to see these pages with the full color, and they're really awesome.
So just a little backstory here. This is from a Kickstarter, or?
So the Kickstarter is going on right now. If you search on Kickstarter for Datura, it's issue 1 and 2, and he doesn't have issue 1. I think issue 1's fully colored now, but he hasn't printed it like this. He went ahead and did this unwrapped copy, so he could sell that at cons and whatnot. But like, so the Kickstarter is for issue 1 and 2, and yeah, the coloring is fantastic on it, and even like showing the front cover with colors and the inks, and then on the back you get this penciled version of the cover, and it's really just insane to look at the pencils like this and like non-inked, especially when we're so used to doing the lettering ourselves and whatnot, so we can't kind of mess with the dialogue too much, but like to have it really stand out like that so you can read along it pretty easily. Highly recommend going to check out this Kickstarter and donating to the cause, because I think this comic is well worth anybody's attention. And like we were talking about, his posing and crafting of like the forms. He has a lot of great aliens in this designs and whatnot, and I really love the car they're cruising along in for bounty hunting. So the story, for the most part, is about these two sisters who are bounty hunters and going around the town, like collecting bounties to survive. And like the younger sister is going to school, and like the Datura is the older sister, and she's trying to steer her sister away from this lifestyle. And then they're getting caught up with this mob sense of criminality that they're fighting against the storm with. So, yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really enjoyable story. I really like the it kind of, because there's like the equivalent of land speeders in it. So it kind of reminded me of the opening scene of Han Solo, like on Corellia.
Yeah.
Even though it's nothing like that, but like there's just elements of that kind of sci-fi setting where I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of that, you know. So, but yeah, very cool. And what you're showing right now, the final pages, because I have the digital version. The final pages where you get to see all the character sketches, that's really awesome. I love it when they show that.
It's really awesome seeing like these scales and whatnot. Like I think like Mike's talked about having like character bibles for this, and like so he knows how to work on the designs and whatnot. And like this is the bad dude, looks like a bad guy, and I just love these little aspects. So yeah, I will drop the link for the Kickstarter down in the show notes. Here's one of these winged creature that Datura has a run in right off the bat. But yeah, really dig this whole. I think he's offering the unwrapped version for a perk as well. I think I've thrown in for that perk so I can have a few of them laying around. So yeah, really dig it.
Yeah,
so go check out that Kickstarter and throw some money their way as well.
Yeah. Any other Kickstarters you want to put out there?
Yeah, actually, there's an artist goes by Pickle.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 3 or so years. Interesting story about I don't know Greek. I'm sure you are the Greek story of Icarus, how he had wings made of wax and
Yeah.
couldn't necessarily, or his father told him to not fly so high, not fly so low, because if he flew too low, he would get his wings gunked up by the seawater, and if he flew too high, they'd melt, obviously. So, um, being as egocentric as Icarus was, he did fly too high to the sun, melted his wings, and crash landed into the sea, where he ended up drowning. Um, but he has a fun little twist on that, and he has Icarus is made of wax, and Sun is actually a female lover that he
Mm.
has, and it's kind of shows their story of they want to be together, but they can't because them being together means that they will eventually destroy each other, and it's really this
Mm.
awesome story. It's actually on Indiegogo. I will throw the link down below to that as well. I think the last time I checked it, he had it up for about 3 days, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it's at 300 grand already.
Sorry, how
Shooting out
much?
of yeah, 300 grand, and I'm pretty sure he was only looking for 20 grand.
Holy,
Let me look at it right now. Yeah, so it's been up for 4 days on
that's
Indiegogo.
insane. But is this guy like
It
really
is
well known then?
already at it's already at 400 grand. He's so well. He has started picking up a couple projects for DC. I think he's drawing the newest Raven
Okay.
graphic novel. But yeah, 400,000 in a few days, and like this is the project. He was showing pictures of this, and like that's how I found him a few years ago. And yeah, he has such great imagery. Let me see if I can find some of the images he's got for it. So,
Wow. Good on him.
um,
That's really awesome.
yeah, I mean, being a small creator like this, and like the idea of having your project just
Yeah, I
strike
think
it
you've
like that,
I've
like
seen you share I've seen you share stuff of his. Hmm.
yeah, so he's definitely getting up there, and I'm stoked that he's doing so well, and I'm definitely going to be ordering that book. Obviously he lives in Brazil, so it'll be probably international shipping wherever, but like I'm so looking forward to reading this whole thing. I don't think he's ever shared the entirety of it, but like
That's cool.
it's
So it's still a surprise.
it's not only this idea of them not being able together, but it also deals with some really things that go into the decision, like that they can't be together because they're destroying each other. But that also means that they'll be lonely without each other, and like it's really this cool dynamic of among it all. So yeah, I'm really stoked that he's doing that well, and even with a month to go, I'm excited to see how far that project goes because he definitely deserves it. Like I love
Yeah.
his little illustrations, and I think he got the gig working on Raven because he was doing fan art of the DC teenagers. I remember him doing like the Teen Titans fan art, and I think that's where he really got his
Wow.
DC talking to him.
So
So
it does
yeah,
happen. That's
it
awesome.
does. It does in fact. So if you're
That is
not
so cool.
drawing fan art every now and then, you should definitely give that a shot because
Yeah.
you never know who's going to be checking out your art, and something might
It's
just
true.
crack that whip. So, how about you? You got anything you want to pimp out?
Well, I've been reading in Marvel Unlimited. I've been continuing my X Factor run, starting from the beginning, so going up to issue 10. And I started reading some random ones, including the first couple of issues of Venom that came out last year. And Venom is, if you've seen the film, because I have not kept up with, all the Venom miniseries from the last however many years, I just remember Venom being a very cool Spider-Man villain. But I've seen like images of him hanging out with the Guardians in the Galaxy. Um, But this comic book follows quite nicely after the film, if that's kind of where you're at, like me, with what Venom is about, and it's really enjoyable. Like it's crazy. Like the first couple of issues, they're literally just building out this mythology behind the symbiote here on
Yeah.
Earth with other symbiotes and with like secret ops by Shield that have symbiotes and like some symbiote
This is the
god
one
and
that's
like
written by Donny Cates, right?
I don't remember. If you'd say the name, I would probably trigger me, but like I don't remember the writer's name. But it is a lot of fun, and the art style has a lot in the vein of like Greg Capullo. Like it's along those
Okay.
lines, like that level of detail and like that kind of like over the top like storytelling and action. Um, yeah, it's just a really crazy metal storyline. It's just that's the one.
So is it this guy?
Yes,
Yep.
that's the one.
So yeah, Donny Cates is the writer. Ryan Stegman
Yes,
is the
Stegman.
artist. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he looks like they're on issue 11 right now. So
Yeah. So I've just
I
read the first
remember, is
couple.
it one of the first issues that like Venom's a dragon, isn't he?
The Well, what's happening is like he seems to be like taken over, and all the symbiotes
Mhm.
seem to be taken over, and they change like the symbolisms on the suit. When they go into this crazy mode, and Eddie Brock loses control, and he's just being
Oh
deserted the
yeah,
whole time. Um, and so that is kind of what's happening, and then it plays into this background story of like some kind of hierarchy within the symbiotes and like someone on top, and it's pretty far out, and some of it I'm a little bit like, wait, what? But it's if you just go along with
that's rad.
for the ride, it's just fun. Like it's just turned Venom in this crazy horror monster story, if you will. You know, it's
That's
cool. It's
awesome.
very cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
remember it
really
being
enjoyed
one
it.
of the elements of Venom that I really enjoyed is like them talking about the different symbiotes and like Venom being one of the weakest, and like I was
Yes.
like I all the symbiotes then. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cool element to play on.
Yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, so I've been really enjoying that. Just paging through it, But it's also fun just being on the Marvel Unlimited app and just, I mean, there's just so much stuff, And it's
Oh
just
yeah,
I,
for
I've
sure.
I've just gotten into this mindset of like, well, that one, just pick one,
That's awesome.
Instead of like last week, what I was saying, like giving this example of like if you walk into a music store and try and dig into a genre like nothing about, because I actually have a list now of the X-Men storylines from the 2000s onward, so I
Mhm.
can dig into that and like start adding them to my library and downloading them to my phone, because I really want to get
That's
in
awesome.
there and like just catch up, because I'm sure there's tons of really cool X-Men storylines that I have no clue, you know. So
That's fantastic.
yes, comics, man.
So yeah, what are you hoping to get done for next week then?
So for next week, this page, I'll just put it up on the screen one more time. This page is almost done. I'm literally on the last panel. It's time to draw a fossil right over there. See the pencils? And then this one's done, and then it's on to page 3, and also finishing up because I've fallen behind on phosphor, which is right over here.
So rad.
So this is phosphor. And I am really like, so with my traditional inks, these are my main tools of the trade, it seems. Like the quill, this rough brush, and then the occasional, uh, these are like microns, like Stedlers. I don't know what these are called. Um, and I'm constantly finding myself moving in and out and getting into this workflow where you know, like there's certain effects that you want to do with the quill,
Mhm.
um, which are just like there's certain effects you can do with these where you can just, you know, add pressure and just get really thick lines and really thin lines. And so
Yeah.
the control you can have over this one, as long as you keep going in the right direction and not like go off and splatter ink all over your drawing, um, is really incredible. But of course, the downside is you run out of ink, or you know, it like
That's
there's a
fantastic.
little crazy things can happen from time to time with this one. Um, so the advantage of having these is, of course, like it will always do exactly what you want, but
Hmm.
I catch myself constantly, which is why I moved back to the quill. I catch myself constantly like retreading what I'm doing to get to fake the effects you can so easily do with the quill, you know, and that's why I've picked it up again. So this is where I'm at right now. This is the final panel. Um, I just kind of have to fill in the background over here, and I'm pretty much there.
What page is that on?
I think this is 13 or 14.
Okay, I don't.
So so
So
it's
you're
past the
about
halfway
halfway
point.
through.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
halfway. I'm past the halfway point. The only thing that is good, definitely gonna bite me when I finish this is that this is without any text balloons. So that still has to be done. So hopefully by then I'll be fully digital again, so I can easily do that. Or who knows? Maybe I'll stick to traditional lettering. Who knows? Just cut out
Cool.
the balloons, you know, old school, and just stick them on. So
Oh
we'll
yeah.
see. But yeah, so
Right
that's in
on.
the
That's
works for
awesome.
next week. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna focus fire on getting this four
Yeah.
page done, and
Mhm.
then I got to get back into the final touches of issue 10, which is like putting together a sketchbook and the preview of the next issue and everything for the back pages of issue
Because
10. I think
the
I'm
whole
going to do
comic book is
something a little different.
Mhm.
The issue portion of it is done.
Yes.
I think I want to do a little bit something different since this is the start of the third and final arc.
Mhm.
For the opening pages, I want to throw a little excerpt of this is what's happened so far.
Okay.
So anybody can pick up issue 10 and just get right into the story if they wanted
Yeah.
to do so. Um, yeah, digging into that, getting that done, as well as I've got to find some time and finalize this free comic book story that I've been working on. It's a 5 page comic of different characters that I wrote and put together last fall,
Yeah.
but I kind of get to put up some character pages and tell who everybody is and what their story is and why you should go check out those stories and like. So I want to do this for Free Comic Book Day. So I'm actually going to be tabling at a local comic shop, and I want to give that out to people that come into the store. So
When is
I got to
that?
get
Free
that done
comic
in
book
the
day?
next week or so. It's the first Saturday in May, so I want to say it's the
That's
fourth.
pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Especially hoping to have a turnaround on the page being printed. So I got about 2 months, which if it takes me 2 weeks, it's typically a 3 to 4 week turnaround to get it printed and proofed and
Mhm.
everything like that. So we're chomping on the bit now. So gotta
That's
get it
cool.
finished. But yeah.
March, April, May. Yeah, 2 months.
So yeah, I think that'll do it. Next week we'll see you either here or Instagram. We might try Instagram again, but we
Of
might
course, we should
stick with
try.
this. And, yeah, so
No, we should at least give it a
we'll
go.
catch you next week. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll catch you next week, and we'll show you everything we've done next week. So
Excellent.
we'll check you later. Peace all.
Take care, guys.